All right, so we are going to focus on Google Drive today. After this is recorded, it'll be placed up on the JAG Genius. So the goal of this training is to get everyone familiar with Google Drive from even just a baseline perspective, all the different things that it can do, talk a little bit about um, the other things that Google Drive can do as well, outside of just what we're doing with CDC, but mainly focus on how we use Google Drive with the team for CDC. And close out of my email here so it doesn't keep popping up. So first things first, this is our JAG Indiana CDC Google Drive. What we're going to do is, back to basics kind of with it. So if you've never used Google Drive, we're gonna take it down kind of to that level. So in order to use any of your sort of Google Suite items, you'll go over to this area that the dots in the far right hand corner next to your Gmail logo. And the first thing you'll see is account, but then right under that, you should see your Google Drive. So once we take you to your Google Drive, and my computer's a little slow, so I have to bear with me on that, you can see all the things that are in your drive. The drive is searchable, so if you have a lot of files in here like we do, let's say we're looking for Career Development Conference, you can just search in there and it will take you wherever you want to go. You can make subfolders, and we'll show you how to do that. So anytime you want to do anything new in Google Drive, you always just want to click that new. If you want to make a folder, you can go ahead and click and just title it whatever you want. And that allows you to put whatever you want in that particular folder. So I just named it STS because that's where this training is being recorded for. So, but you also notice you can do a lot of other things. So we'll go through some of these a little bit later. But you can obviously make a Google Doc, which is sort of the Google version of Microsoft Word, a Google Sheet, which is sort of the Microsoft Excel version of Google, the Google Slides, which is their version of PowerPoint, and Google Forms, which is really useful, and we'll show you why a little bit later. It's also very cost effective. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to go in and so you've got a folder made, right? There are two ways that you can put items into a Google Drive folder. The first is you can just go ahead and drop items in. So now let me open one of my folders. Here's some presentations that I've done in the past. And all I need to do is just drag and drop, and it'll instantly upload it. Usually things don't take too long. This is a pretty long slide deck, so you can see that it uploads pretty quickly. The other option you have in terms of putting things in your Google Drive folder is you just go to File Upload, and then you can put whatever you want in here. So I'm in my Downloads folder, and I just upload an image in there. Just the same thing, just the same way you would upload something from a folder anywhere else. So pretty easy to put files in. When you do load files in the Google Drive, it will sort of convert it to whatever Google application it is. So this was made in Microsoft PowerPoint. It'll convert it to a Google slide. However, you can always revert it back. So one of the things to note, especially with Google Slides, but also with Google Docs and with Google Sheets, is they do have some nuances to them that are different from the Microsoft Office suite products. So just because you drop, and you should tell your students this as well, if they plan on using Google Slides for a presentation in CDC, the fonts and some of the pictures, the way they show up in a PowerPoint, won't necessarily show up the same way in Google Slides. So it's super important that if they're going to convert a PowerPoint to a Google slide for presenting at CDC, they're going to want to check to make sure that it still looks the same, because it can be pretty, I guess, maddening when you open up a Google slide to present at your competition and all of a sudden everything doesn't look the way that it did when you dropped it in. So any file that you have, we'll go through. So any file you have, you can click the file and make a new of any of these things anytime you want. Again, much like Microsoft Office Suite. And then open any existing files, import slides, make copies, all those sorts of things. we'll go into what some of these things are later on, but you can also email the file from your Gmail account, or you can download it. And as you can see, you can download it to an awful lot of different things. So, um, this is just a PowerPoint, but it's the same with Google Docs and Google Sheets. So if you have a Google Slides and you prefer to use it as a PowerPoint, you're more comfortable with that, you can go ahead and download it. And it tends to convert to PowerPoint pretty seamlessly. So if you build something in Google Slides, it'll convert pretty well. Um, if you are looking to do a slideshow, again, much like Microsoft Suite, here's your slideshow button, and you can present from there. The other thing you've got, and this goes again through all these different types of documents, is share. Sharing is super, super important to know how you're doing it, why you're doing it, what you're doing it, who you're giving the access to. So right here, you'll have an owner, okay? And that'll be you, whatever your Gmail account is. It is important to note that if you're going to use Google Drive, and I should have said this at the beginning, you will have to sign in using some sort of Gmail account. There are ways to share files with people who don't have Gmail accounts, but it's a little clunky. My advice to you is rather than have to go that route, just go ahead and create a generic Gmail account for either your JAG program or your JAG region, so on and so forth. Anyways, the people with access will be right here. You can add people. So, let's say that we want to add our intern, Colleen, and as an individual person. You can choose to notify them or not notify them. I would say notify them so they know. And what do you want this person to be? Do you want them just to be able to view? So viewing only access means that they can see the slides, they can't do anything to them. Do you want this person to be able to comment? This means they can view the slides, but they also can use the comment section, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, to make comments on them for you personally to go back and fix or address those comments. And the last one, which is the most comprehensive one, is editor. So by clicking editor, this will allow that person to do anything that you would be able to do to whatever file's in there. You can also type in a message. And then you can either send it directly, which it'll send it directly to their Gmail account, or you can go ahead and copy the link and send it via a link. So we're going to go back, and then Colleen would show up right here once she confirmed that she's willing to have access to it, and she would be added there. Now, for CDC purposes, it's really important to talk about the general access, because we've definitely had hiccups with this, and you can have hiccups with it within your own region as well. And it can cause some pretty stressful moments for your specialists and your students. So when it's restricted, that means that only you and the people you give the access to can do anything with it. No one else is able to do anything with it. If they have some sort of link, it won't allow them in. They would have to log in using the people with access. So when you choose anyone with link, that's where you can choose what level of access you want the person to have. So viewer, commenter, and editor, kind of the same thing. If you just want students to be able to go in and view something, you would make them the viewer. If you are a JAG manager and you want your team to be able to comment but not actually edit anything, you can make them a commenter and then editor, and it sort of works the same. You just copy the link, you click done, and you send the link via your email. So I'm going to pop out of here, and we're going to go to the Career Development Conference folder right in here. So you'll see all last year's or this past year's Career Development Conference folders and materials and all the things that are in there. I would highly advise, and this is just a tip, highly advise that each region sort of have their own Career Development Conference folders with all the competition folders in them. It makes it really easy to go ahead and jump into the Google Drive, know what you're getting into, know which folders you should be in, know which folders you shouldn't be in at that time, and put things in. There is one caveat, and we've had this question over the course of really since we started using the Google Drive, and regions asking, why does everybody get access? So we go, let's just go into, let's pick a competition. We'll go critical thinking. So why does everybody get access? because it's caused files to be moved around and so on and so forth. The problem with not giving everyone access is you can't even drop something into a folder unless the person is made to be an editor. So when we ask a region to drop their, we'll just go with this student, drop their critical thinking essay in here, and the specialist is putting that essay in here, unless you have editor access, if it's commenter or viewer, you're not able to go ahead and even drop the files in. That's why everybody has to be an editor. And that's also why we don't want students being the editors, and we want to restrict it strictly to staff, managers, coordinators, specialists. And your region can do it however they want. Everything can filter to the manager, and that can be the only person that drops the files in. But when we send out the link, it's going to be set that anyone with the link is going to be able to edit. Otherwise, we have a problem of one region that has their specialist drop their stuff in individually, and you have another region that only the manager, the coordinator does it. In order to allow everyone to put their files in, we have to have everyone, be the editor. So we go to one of these. Actually, let's go back real quick. And also, so before we go back, so in the tab here under whatever the folder name is, you have the option you can open it, however you want to open it. But the big things are the sharing tab, again, here, kind of same permissions. As you can see, anyone with a link is the editor. Oops. Just did that. This button gives you a preview. This is also a quick share button if you want to share that way. This button right here will delete or remove any files. This button right here, obviously you can go through a different kind of menu, whether it's download, block somebody that is doing something inappropriate within the folder. You can star things, rename things, you can move things to a different folder. Let's say I want to move this student's essay to a different folder. You just go back. Let's say I want to move it to career presentation. And I just click move here. Now, as you can see, anyone that has access to the other folder you're moving it to will have the same access that maybe they wouldn't have access. So let's go back. Let's say that there's somebody that has access to the career presentation folder that doesn't have access to the critical thinking folder. By moving the essay to the career presentation folder, whoever has access to that career presentation folder by default now has access to this file, even though they otherwise wouldn't have. We're not going to move it. We're just going to cancel. It'll much like Windows, you can find a file location. Another one that's kind of good is the make a copy, and I'll show you why here in a second. But that's what this tab is going to do for you. So let's go back. Let's go back to our career development conference folder and make a copy. So when you want to make a copy of something, especially when it comes to the CDC manual, you're redoing it we're redoing it every year, and you might be doing something regionally every year. You have to make a few tweaks, like different years or different rules to a certain competition or different logistics that it might have. You just go into that, make a copy, name it whatever you want. You always have the option to undo something in Google Drive as well. So if I decide, didn't want to make a copy of that, I can undo it. Let's go in here. All right. So when we talk a little bit about comments and staff making comments, but not having editing access. So when you want to make a comment, let me see where it is here. Now I'm botching my own thing. Oh, there it is. So I have editing access, so the making a comment button is off. But when you want to make a comment, you'll just go ahead and click on that. You'll get a tab out to the side here. You'll be able to make that comment, and then the other person will get something in their email like this. It will say a new comment in your document. Colleen and I were going back and forth, and you can actually reply here, so you don't actually need to get back in the document in order to address whatever comment it was. The other thing I think is really cool on this is the translate document section. We all know that there are folks in our JAG orbit who have English as a second language or have limited English skills, or we have, even a program in Region 9 that is bilingual. So you want to click on Tools and Translate Document, and you can pick any type of language you want. As you can see, there are an awful lot of different languages in here for you to choose from. So you just click translate. It will take a little bit of time depending on how long the document is. So we translated this to Ukrainian just for no particular reason, but it will go ahead and translate the entire document. Now, one thing's important to note on this. On a larger, longer document, it's not going to translate the whole thing. So you're going to have to do it in chunks. I believe it goes. There you go. So 20 pages, it will translate for you. So if you have a longer document like this, like we translated the JAG CDC manual to Spanish for a couple programs last year, essentially what you're going to have to do is break up a longer document into 20-page chunks. So I would go ahead and make a copy of this particular file like I just showed you how to do. And then I would put the next 20 pages in, translate those, and eventually just put all of them to copy and paste and put all of them together. But the translate button is really cool because it allows you really quickly to be able to serve those students who either, like I said, don't have English as a first language or just read more proficiently in a different language, and it does it pretty well. And obviously it does it really quickly. So just a reminder, make sure you go ahead if you're going to translate a document and it's longer than 20 pages, it's going to take a little bit of time. You're going to have to do some copy and pasting, but eventually you'll just put the entire document together and you'll have your translated document into whatever language that you want. Alrighty. So let's go to the outstanding senior. And the reason we want to go back to the outstanding senior is we want to talk about something that happened last year or this past year that we definitely want to avoid. So late in the process, when we were at sort of the witching hour to get all of the outstanding senior images over to the printer so they could be in the program appropriately, we went into the outstanding senior folder and magically nothing was in there. Obviously, there was wide-scale panic in that moment, and we didn't know what we were going to do. So one thing that's important to note when you talk about clicking on a file. So what had happened is a specialist had, they were doing it on purpose, obviously. A specialist had gone to move to. So, let's say I want to move this file to a different folder. And what this specialist wanted to do is they wanted to move the file to their Google Drive. So I believe they dragged and dropped it, which has the same sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the same sort of process, I guess, as clicking the Move To button. If you drag and drop, it's eventually Move To. So the specialist just dragged and dropped the files for the outstanding seniors over into the folder that the specialist wanted to put them in, so the specialist could show their class, hey, this is what, a state level outstanding senior work will look like. Totally altruistic, totally just trying to help students. But what the specialist didn't realize is it doesn't just drag and drop and move it and just leave it there. It will actually delete that file from the folder. Okay, so definitely if you're going to do that, if you're interested in showing your students some state level work and students that have gotten to the state and their projects, super important to make sure that you're making a copy of it and moving the copy. Okay. Another thing is just maybe reach out and ask and say, hey, would you mind making copies of all these files, Bart? I want to show what state level, chapter brochure looks like, and I'm gonna put them in my own folder. Please just don't ever move the stuff without letting somebody know, because then it disappears. So then what do you do if it disappears, right? Excuse me. I'll show you the share up here too first. So anytime you see these little people buttons up here, again, that's a share option. Same thing. I mean, you're looking at basically, you know, the same type of process, but I just wanted to show you that. All right. So when you go ahead and click this button, it will show details and it will hide details. So let's go, let's see here. Let's go to a folder. It's a little more. So let's go back to critical thinking. So let's say there is something moved around and things of that nature. Anytime you click this, the details folder, you can go back and see what was done and sort of who put the stuff in, right? As you can see, it may, so anyone, you can, this person can edit. You got people, specialists adding obviously their items. Kyla obviously added some items here. This is us restricting an item because it was time for state CDC and we were making it and we didn't want people to see it ahead of time. So you can restrict full folders or you can restrict individual files. So when we put the critical thinking scenario in here for our team to discuss, but we don't want students or specialists getting in and knowing what the scenario is ahead of time, all we have to do is you can restrict that individual file. And then even if you have editing access and access to this folder, you can go ahead and make some of your files restricted that you don't want anybody else to see, whether they have access to the folder or not. So obviously the details folder kind of gives you an idea of who's been in your folder, what they've been doing. It goes into the comments even, people who uploaded things, so on and so forth. You also can see who has access, what the access is, manage it from here. When it was created, last time it was opened, you can add a description to it if you really want to, so on and so forth. Anything you've worked on recently, you can just go ahead and click the recent button and it will go ahead and show recent items. If you want to filter it by starred items, you can filter it by starred items. Again, one down here that's important to look at is your storage. Google Drive fills up pretty fast. So you do have to monitor it a little bit to make sure that you still have space in it, for lack of a better term. It's easy to find once you click on that button, it will then filter out things that you can either keep or delete or things of that nature based on the file size. So, if we're looking to clean this folder out, it's going to give you the largest files that are in here, and you can choose whether they're relevant or not, and you can choose whether to keep them in there, so on and so forth. You can always buy storage. It can get expensive. Backups button is anything that you have backed up in Google Drive. You can go ahead and see it here. But also you can also see whatever activity was on something. So if someone has gone in and removed some files, you can go back in and say, hey, Billy from Region 4 went in and removed some files. Hey, Billy, can you throw those files back in there? So on and so forth. All right. All right, so one of the things that you'll see that's going to be a little bit different this year, and let's go back into the Career Development Conference. So one of the things you'll see that's going to be a little different this year is we have these career development conference folders. We're going to continue to have this, but once deadlines have passed, what we're going to do is make a state career development conference folder for just the state team and the files that made it to state. So which is what we're seeing is files being moved around inadvertently by even students putting in files that didn't actually win. So then we don't know whether those students or which one is the one that is supposed to represent the region. So what we're going to do this year, and kind of advise you guys to do that as well, if you have regional Google Drives and you have students that are in them, is make one that's restricted just for staff so you can make sure that the right files are getting into the right places, and then have one that, people can drop things in so one person isn't doing all the work. So you'll see that. So for 2023, you'll see a 2023 career presentation. You'll go ahead and see, specialists drop their students' work in here once they're there. And then once we have, all 12 competing career development conference winners, we will make a separate folder for just our team that's restricted, so we don't have to worry about the wrong files getting into places. And I highly advise you guys to take that line of thinking as well. Anything someone shares with you will be right here as well. So hopefully we've kind of explained how things will work in terms of CDC. Google Drive is a great way to work on things simultaneously with your team in a living document. It's a great way to house your files somewhere. It's a great way to give people access easily to things, so you all are kind of singing from the same sheet of music, so to speak. And it's also really easy to use. It's not overly difficult. I do want to show you how to do Google Form. So Google Forms are cool in the sense that it's easy to use and it acts like SurveyMonkey, but you don't have to pay for it. So anything in Google Drive, it's super easy to save. This is titled generic survey, but anytime you want to title a document, it's going to take that first language that you have at the top and automatically put it in. Let's say I want to title it something else. You can just go in and double click it and go ahead and do that. Okay, and you can move it to any folder using here, or you can star it using here, and that allows you easy access to get to it. You can customize themes, saying what type of text do you want, what do you want the questions to look like. You can choose an image. It'll give you images that you can use, and so you want to use what we got in here. I like jelly beans, so we'll go with jelly beans. And there's all sorts of different, themes that you can pick. Actually, I like basketball more than jelly beans. Go with that. You can upload from your computer, or you can go to your Google Photos, which I'll show you a little bit later. And it will input the image above your survey. Okay. So here you put a description of what your survey is. And then you can start on with the question. So over here, the toolbar is you can add a question. So let's go here. What's cool about this is it will actually switch the question style based on what it thinks you're looking for. So let's say you're doing a linear scale. So let's say on a scale. You notice how it changed from multiple choice to linear scale. Okay, so and then you click down here, you can click required. So if you don't want someone to be able to click save on their Google form on their survey you're making, you can just require it. If you have very similar questions, you can always duplicate them. If you want to delete the question, you can click that. Over here is where you add a question. And then, you can always add images. You can import questions from other documents. You can add video if you want. You can add a whole section. So let's say, this section is going to be about training, and then regional training, and then the next section is going to be about state training. You can separate those as well. See this one, I clicked options and it goes to check boxes. So, and then you can always add other options. You can always add other as well. And then you just have to click them to put text in here. Option 1, option 2. So you can always attach images to each as well. There's a lot you can do here. I'm just trying to take you through the basics that you'll probably use. And let's say you can go ahead and add another question. It always defaults to multiple choice, but these are the sort of so when it's sort of an open-ended question, it automatically defaults to paragraph or sometimes short answer. You can do a drop-down menu. You can do that linear scale. You can do a multiple choice grid. You can do a checkbox grid. So these are all the different options you have of being able to make different types of questions. Again, pretty cool. Does it on its own. Like that very much. When you're done, you're ready to send it. There's a couple different ways you can send it. You can send it directly from your Gmail, so generic survey, and it just says, I've invited you to fill out a form. Or you can take a link. You can either take that link and it'll copy it by clicking this, or you can shorten the URL. Makes it a little easier for people to look at, and it makes it a little easier to post in different places, especially if you're doing it on something like social media or anything like that. Or you can send the form directly from Facebook or Twitter, depending on whether or not you have the account there. So um, you can also embed it as well if you want to embed it in something. Like like I will take an embed code with a survey when it's in the JAG Genius, for instance. So that's sort of how to use that. Um, Again, any questions on these, feel free to reach out. When you do send it and you start getting responses, the responses will be here. Um, and once you start getting responses, the next thing it will allow you to do is um, it will make its own, what am I looking for? Graphs. So once I get, 9, 10 responses on something, or even 1 or 2 responses, there's an option for you to go in and make a report based on what the responses are, and it'll use pie charts and things like that. So you don't have to manually take those out. So it works like a free version of SurveyMonkey. The only difference is it doesn't have like a logic that you can spider questions to different areas. So if I clicked yes, then I go to this area. Or if I click no, then I go to this area. You just have to make those questions sort of independently. Alrighty. So some of the other things we're gonna look at. Other things you can do, I haven't used these very much other than Google Jamboard, but in the more section, whoops, you can go to drawings, there's a maps, there's a Google Sites. Google Sites is where you can kind of create your own sort of individual website that's sort of baseline and very generic, but it gives you a template. It's very easy to use. Google Jamboard's kind of cool because if you ever use Jamboard, it's one of those where you can ask a question and then you can go ahead and cultivate responses, and you can see them in real time. So we use these for a lot of committees that I'm on, but you can put sticky notes in there and then somebody say, and then it plops the sticky note on there. So, you can ask a question. I could type, and then everybody can go in. And you have to move your sticky notes around so you can see what's going on. You can always, and then if you're, let's say that you're in a training and you're a JAG manager and you want to ask a question and you want to get feedback, you can always just go to share, and you can share with whomever you want to, and those people can go in, click that link, and then anybody can go ahead and get in the Google Jamboard. So, and you can present this to a meeting as well. So that's kind of cool. You can also, there's kind of the same standard things: upload images, change text, draw a circle, erase things, use a pen, use a laser pen. So you can clear it right here. You can make a background, zoom in, zoom out, because these are obviously kind of small. But that's generally how Google Jamboard works. Oops. So that's kind of a cool one. I think that's the main one I want to show you. Yeah, you can play things from YouTube and Google Drive, video players as well. Let's just say you have access to those, but for some reason YouTube's blocked on your computer or something like that. You can play the video player from Google Drive. All right, let's go back over here. You can always toggle between all your things, but some of them I want to show you, the Google Calendar. Google Calendar is something we use internally for some of our social media in particular. So you'll see, I'll go back to June because there's a little Actually, it's not what I'm looking for here. Social media calendar. All right. I think there you go. So this is how we go ahead and do our social media. I'm trying to find a day, one with a holiday. I should have just stayed on July 4th. So we put all of our holidays in here, so we know, hey, we have to make a Google Calendar or a social media post regarding Independence Day. We also put, some fun ones to let us know, hey, it's World Emoji Day. Maybe we can find something fun to post for this. Maybe we can find JAG students that are wearing sunglasses and put them there. These are all just ideas in the event. Maybe we don't have something or we have a bulk of something. So for instance, couple last year, we went ahead and it was a National Law Enforcement Day, and we compiled a bunch of pictures of JAG students who had moved on and matriculated into law enforcement positions, and we went ahead and highlighted them. As you can see, there's a standing item every Thursday, which is our staff spotlights that you've probably seen. Anytime you want to make anything. So today, one of the things that was posted was just click save. And then I know that on this day, we posted the JAG Specialist of the Month. It's also a really good way to just sort of put things on and look ahead. And you can also go ahead and look back on the things you posted last year. So, um, so when we look back last year, we posted something for Cyber Monday. We posted something for Giving Tuesday. We tend to slug things that we don't create, that someone else writes about us, media. So some other media entity did it. Therefore, we put that on there just so we know. And it was Work Nation that did it. Whenever we do resources for an agency or someone, then you do the resources. Obviously, you see some of the holidays that we have that we know we have to make posts for. But again, it's just a really good day it's a really good way of kind of keeping up to date with what you're doing, and putting some fun things in, Odd Socks Day, so on and so forth. So I want to show you the calendar. It can be a good way to sort of keep yourself on track. Next thing we want to show is the Google Photos. So anytime you have photos, you can upload them. Anytime you want to upload a photo, you just click upload, your computer or your Google Drive, um, and boom, it uploads. Takes 2 seconds to upload. Nothing too deep. You'll close it. It'll pop up when it uploaded. So let's go back to, there's one thing I want to show you on here. You can create albums, archive trash. You can do all the stuff that you normally can do, print stuff off, so on and so forth. But there's one thing in particular I want to show you on this that we do. So let's say you have an event and you have 2 or 3 photos you want to share, or 4 photos, it goes up to 9 photos. Let's say you have a couple photos you want to share from something, and you want to make it look a little nicer than just uploading a bunch of photos that people scan through. So you can go ahead and click on Utilities. And you can make movies, you can make animations, but the one I'm showing you that's sort of the baseline level that you would probably use is a collage. And let's say I want to make a collage of, this looks like Region 3's senior send-off, which we actually did make a collage of. You'll click the photo, say I want that one, and some smiling JAG staff, and then you just click create. It'll create it in a matter of seconds. And then you can just go ahead and right click it and save the image, and it'll just save it to whatever folder you want to save it to. So, or you can put it in a slideshow, you can download, you can move photos around, so on and so forth. So that's kind of a neat thing to be able to create real quick, sort of social media ready images, for lack of a better term. Alrighty, so this is sort of taking you through what we generally use Google Drive for. We hope that it has been helpful. If you need any questions answered. If there's something on here that you say, oh, I'd like to know how to do this, or is this the right thing to do? If I move this file here, is what's going to happen? What's the consequence of this? Um, Please reach out if there's anything more advanced that you hope Google Drive does that we didn't discuss. Maybe it does do it. I don't know. But reach out and we can kind of walk through that together. Hope this has been a good and informative overview of Google Drive, and look forward to seeing you use it in the future, and look forward to some of the great CDC content that'll come through next year.